All right, buckle up, everyone, because today we're diving deep into the Deathwatch.
The Imperium's most elite alien hunters.
You got that right.
Yeah.
We're going to find out who they are, what makes them tick, and why they're so crucial in the Warhammer 40K universe. Think of it as, well,
like a
boot camp.
Yeah.
But just the orientation, not the actual, painful trials and stuff.
Yeah, no drills today.
Yeah, no drills today. And our guide for this mission is the awesome YouTube video, The Deathwatch. Who are the Imperium's elite alien hunters? Warhammer 40K lore from the channel Imperial Iterator.
Great channel. Love that one. What's fascinating about the Deathwatch is that they aren't just another chapter of Space Marines.
Right.
They're the ultimate Xenos specialists.
Oh, wow.
Handpicked from across the entire Imperium.
So not your average Space Marine recruitment pool.
Not even close.
Okay.
These are veterans, guys who have stared down horrors.
Right.
That would make most people go mad, and they come out on top. Wow. They're the shield against the unknown, the terrifying things that go bump in the dark corners of the galaxy.
Okay, I'm hooked already, but let's get down to the basics. What exactly makes the Deathwatch different from, a regular chapter?
It all comes down to purpose. While other chapters might defend specific planets or sectors, the Deathwatch has one mission: to hunt and destroy Xenos threats wherever they may arise. They are the Imperium's first and last line of defense against the alien.
And we're talking a lot of different aliens.
Oh, a lot.
It's not like they specialize in, one particular enemy.
You're absolutely right.
Okay.
The Deathwatch faces a mind-boggling array of Xenos threats.
Give me a rundown.
Well, we've got the Tyranids, those relentless swarms that consume everything.
Oh, yeah.
Then there are the Orcs, brutal and warlike.
Love a good orc.
Always looking for a good scrap. And don't forget the Tau with their advanced technology and expansionist ambitions.
Right, right. And then there's the Eldar, right?
Yes.
Ancient, enigmatic masters of psychic powers.
And webway travel. Don't forget about that.
And how could we forget the Necrons?
Oh, the Necrons.
Ancient robotic beings who just decided, hey, we want the galaxy back.
Yeah, it's ours. Give it back.
Give it back. It's just a never-ending battle against, a galaxy of nightmares.
That's why the Deathwatch is so vital.
I can see that.
They are the specialists, the experts in Xenos warfare, equipped and trained to combat any alien threat, no matter how bizarre.
Terrifying.
Or terrifying, exactly.
It sounds like a pretty thankless job.
It is.
But somebody's got to do it.
Someone's got to do it.
Right.
And they do it with grim determination and unmatched skill.
I can imagine. Now, speaking of history, where did the Deathwatch even come from?
Oh, the origins?
Yeah, our source mentioned a couple different origin stories, right?
Yes, there are two main theories about how the Deathwatch came to be. The first suggests that they were formed during a massive orc invasion, known as the War of the Beast. The Imperium was in dire straits.
Right.
And needed specialists who could take out the orc war bosses.
So, disrupt their command structure.
Disrupt the command structure.
And turn the tide of the war.
Turn the tide.
Born out of necessity.
Born out of necessity.
Yeah.
Now, the second theory suggests a much earlier origin.
Okay.
During the Apocryphon Conclave.
That's a cool name.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
It was a secret gathering of inquisitors who were debating how to deal with the growing Xenos threat.
Sounds intense. A bunch of inquisitors just, arguing about the fate of the galaxy.
Oh, lots of arguing.
Yeah. Probably not a lot of laughs in that room.
You can say that again. Some inquisitors advocated for the complete annihilation of all alien life, no exceptions.
Wow.
Others proposed alliances, particularly with the Eldar.
Really? That's interesting.
It was a clash of ideologies.
Oh, I bet.
Of differing views on how to address this existential threat.
So you've got these inquisitors locked in debate, and from this, the idea for the Deathwatch emerges.
Precisely. They needed a standing force, ready to respond to any Xenos threat, regardless of its nature.
Right.
The Deathwatch became that solution.
Right.
The permanent shield against the alien.
Always vigilant.
Always prepared to face the unknown.
Okay, so we know why the Deathwatch exists.
Right.
But how does a Space Marine actually become one of these elite Xenos hunters?
Ah, yes. How do you become one of these guys?
It can't be just any battle brother, right?
You're absolutely right. Becoming a Deathwatch member is an incredible honor.
Right.
And the selection process is, as you can imagine, very rigorous.
Very rigorous.
Yes.
Our source says they need to be veterans, warriors who've proven themselves in combat against Xenos. And they need to have not just skill, but also, heroism.
Yeah, that unyielding spirit.
Right, an unyielding spirit.
Individuals who faced down the most terrifying aliens the galaxy has to offer and emerged victorious. They need to be the best of the best, physically, mentally, and spiritually.
And it's not just about battlefield accolades, is it? There's got to be some kind of, like vetting process.
Oh, yeah, a thorough vetting process.
To make sure these guys are the real deal.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Chapter captains, apothecaries, even chaplains, they all play a role in recommending potential candidates.
Right, so it really takes like a village almost to...
It does,
yeah.
but ultimately the final decision rests with the chapter master.
I imagine that sending a battle brother to the Deathwatch is like a huge deal for any chapter.
It is.
Right?
Often there are unique farewell traditions.
Oh, wow.
Signifying the honor and the potential sacrifice.
Yeah.
Some chapters, like the Space Wolves, hold grand feasts lasting all night.
I can see that.
Others, like the Black Templars, have solemn ceremonies filled with prayer and reflection. It's a recognition that they may never see their brother again.
Yeah, that's heavy stuff. Now, this is where it gets really interesting for me.
Okay.
Our source mentions psychological and genetic screening.
Yes.
Why is that so important?
Think about it.
Okay.
These guys are going up against creatures so alien, so utterly different from anything human,
that just being near them could warp your mind?
it's like staring into the abyss and the abyss
Stares back and like tries to eat your soul.
tries to eat your face.
Yeah, eats your face.
And don't forget about the insidious threats like the Genestealers.
Oh, Genestealers.
Who can infiltrate and subvert entire populations through genetic manipulation.
Right, right.
The Deathwatch needs to be 100% sure
Absolutely.
that their recruits are immune to that kind of stuff.
So they're not just looking for physical prowess.
No.
They're looking for mental and genetic fortitude.
It's the total package. They are the ultimate warriors.
Wow.
The pinnacle of human evolution, handpicked to defend humanity against the most terrifying threats in the galaxy.
So we've got these elite space marines, the cream of the crop,
Yeah.
all assembled under the banner of the Deathwatch.
Right.
But how are they structured? Do they operate like a typical space marine chapter?
That's where things get even more interesting.
Lay it on me.
The Deathwatch throws the typical Space Marine playbook right out the window.
Oh, wow.
They don't have the rigid squads and companies you'd find in other chapters.
Okay.
Instead, they prioritize flexibility, adaptability, and specialization.
So how do they organize if they're not using the standard space marine structure?
Kill teams.
Kill teams.
Kill teams.
Okay, now we're talking.
Small, highly specialized units.
Right.
Designed to handle specific mission types and enemy threats.
So each kill team is like tailored to exploit the weaknesses
Of a particular alien enemy.
Ensuring
maximum efficiency and effectiveness.
So, like, if they're facing a horde of Tyranids,
Yes.
they send in a kill team that specializes in taking down swarms.
Mm-hmm.
But if they need to, like, assassinate an orc war boss, they'll send in a team of stealth specialists.
You got it. Tailoring the tool to the task.
I love that.
The Deathwatch understands that no two Xenos threats are the same, and so they need a variety of tools and tactics to combat them effectively.
This kill team concept is so fascinating to me.
It is.
Like, it really speaks to their adaptable nature.
Yeah.
Like, their willingness to break from tradition
Mm-hmm.
and just embrace new ways of fighting.
It's a necessity.
I can see that.
They're facing threats unlike anything other Space Marines encounter.
Right.
So they need to be innovative and flexible to survive.
Now, you mentioned earlier that the Deathwatch has kind of a unique relationship with the Ordo Xenos.
Oh, yes.
The branch of the Inquisition.
Dedicated to combating alien threats.
Right, combating alien threats. Can you elaborate on that?
It's a complex relationship, one built on mutual benefit, but also there's potential tension.
Okay, I like where this is going.
So the Deathwatch often receives missions directly from the Ordo Xenos, acting as their hand in the field, their weapon against the alien.
So the Ordo Xenos is kind of like the brain, like gathering intelligence, formulating strategy.
Right.
And the Deathwatch is the muscle, carrying out those strategies with lethal efficiency.
That's a great analogy.
But it's not always a smooth partnership, right?
It's not.
Like the Deathwatch isn't simply a tool of the Inquisition.
Right.
They have their own autonomy, their own sense of duty to the Imperium.
Exactly.
So are there times when they might, like, question the motives or methods of an Inquisitor?
Absolutely. The Deathwatch is ultimately loyal to the Imperium.
Right.
And if they believe that an Inquisitor is acting against the Imperium's best interests,
They're going to step in.
they will not hesitate to act.
So there's this built-in tension.
Yes.
This potential for conflict.
Yes.
Between the Deathwatch and the very organization that's giving them their orders.
It's a delicate balance, one that's not always easy to maintain. The Deathwatch walks a fine line between obedience and autonomy, duty and independence.
Sounds like a recipe for some pretty intense situations.
You can say that again. But that's the nature of the Deathwatch.
Yeah.
They're not afraid to challenge authority, to do what they believe is right, even if it means going against the grain.
Okay, I am dying to know more about what happens when that tension boils over.
Oh,
But before we go there, let's talk about what happens after a Space Marine gets accepted into the Deathwatch.
Yeah.
What kind of training do they go through?
Oh, get ready for this. It's not for the faint of heart. New recruits undergo something called hypno-indoctrination.
Hypno-indoctrination?
Hypno-indoctrination, essentially a massive info dump about all known Xenos species.
So all their weaknesses, their tactics.
Everything the Imperium has learned about them. It's like cramming a lifetime of Xenos knowledge into their brains in a matter of days.
Talk about information overload. Are you sure these guys don't have, like, brains the size of planets?
They might, but it's not just about memorizing facts and figures.
Okay.
The hypno-indoctrination is designed to instill a deep understanding of the Xenos threat.
Right.
To prepare them for the horrors they're about to face.
So, like Xenosology on steroids.
Exactly, and that's just the beginning.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. After that, they go through a brutal mix of theoretical study and practical exercises. Think of it as a galactic version of boot camp.
Okay.
Only with more aliens.
More aliens, more bolter fire.
And a lot more bolter fire, yeah.
No R&R at Deathwatch boot camp.
Not really.
No?
These guys are being trained to be the best Xenos hunters in the galaxy.
Right.
And that requires pushing them to their absolute limits, honing their instincts, making sure they can react effectively to any threat, no matter how unexpected.
That sounds pretty intense, to say the least.
You said it. But it's necessary.
Right.
The Deathwatch understands that the stakes are incredibly high. The survival of humanity rests on their shoulders, so they can't afford to send half-trained recruits into battle against, a galaxy full of nightmares.
Right. So we've covered the recruitment process, the grueling training.
Mm-hmm.
What about the gear? The Deathwatch is known for their, distinctive black armor.
Ah, the black armor.
What's the story behind that?
It's more than just protection.
Yeah.
It's a symbol, a statement. It represents the Deathwatch's dedication to their singular purpose.
The destruction of Xenos threats.
The destruction of Xenos threats,
right,
exactly.
Our source says the right shoulder pad keeps the Space Marines' original chapter colors, right? Like a reminder of where they came from.
Yes, a little nod to the past.
But the left shoulder pad, that's all Deathwatch.
All Deathwatch.
A sign of their new allegiance, their commitment to this, solemn duty.
It's a visual representation of their transformation.
Okay.
Their transition from being a member of a specific chapter to becoming a part of something larger, something more encompassing.
It's like they're shedding their old identity, their chapter affiliations.
Yeah.
And embracing this new brotherhood, this new purpose.
Precisely. The black armor is a symbol of unity, of anonymity, of a detachment from their past lives.
Wow.
They are no longer space wolves or ultramarines or blood angels.
They are Deathwatch.
They are Deathwatch.
That's a powerful image, and it really speaks to, I think, the sacrifices that these warriors make.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're giving up their old lives, their old loyalties, everything to dedicate themselves to this, higher cause.
Exactly. And it's not just the shoulder pads. They adorn their armor with purity seals, runes, pendants. It's a subtle way of personalizing their armor while still maintaining the overall uniformity of the Deathwatch.
So it's like a blend of the individual and the collective. Like they're retaining a piece of their past.
Right.
But they're also forging a new identity.
Right.
As part of this unique brotherhood.
It's a fascinating aspect of the Deathwatch, isn't it?
It is.
They're a melting pot of different chapters, different cultures, different fighting styles.
Yeah.
But they're all united by this common purpose, this shared dedication to protecting humanity from the alien.
It's like a brotherhood forged in the fires of, Xenos warfare.
Yes.
A bond that transcends chapter rivalries and personal ambitions.
Exactly.
They are the Deathwatch. And they stand together against the darkness.
A shield against the horrors that lip beyond the stars.
I love it. I was thinking about something you mentioned before, all the different chapters. Represented within the Deathwatch, you got Space Wolves, Black Templars, Ultramarines, chapters with centuries of history.
Right.
Sometimes even rivalry.
Yes.
All working together. Are there ever conflicts?
Oh, that's a great question.
Yeah.
And it really gets at the heart of what makes the Deathwatch so unique.
Right.
Just imagine a group of the most elite warriors in the galaxy.
Right.
Each with their own distinct culture, fighting styles, and, let's face it, strong personalities.
I mean, they're Space Marines.
Exactly. Throw them all together in one watch fortress.
Yeah.
And things are bound to get interesting.
It's like a melting pot of hardcore warriors.
It is.
It's almost hard to believe they don't just end up, constantly at each other's throats.
Well, the Deathwatch isn't naive. They know that bringing together such a diverse group of warriors can create friction, but they have several ways of managing these potential conflicts.
Okay, lay it on me. How do they keep things from turning into, a full-blown Space Marine brawl?
First and foremost is the shared purpose.
Right.
the overarching mission of combating Xenos threats,
Right.
that common enemy, that existential threat to the Imperium, really helps to transcend those chapter-specific rivalries.
So they're like putting aside their differences for the greater good.
Exactly. It's that shared understanding that the survival of humanity depends on their ability to work together, to put aside their petty squabbles and focus on the bigger picture.
Right, right. Hey, we might not agree on everything, but we both want to kill these aliens.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
It makes sense. But it can't just be about, like, the common enemy, right? There's got to be other mechanisms in place to keep those, like, simmering tensions in check.
You're right. Another crucial factor is the rigorous selection process. Only the most disciplined, the most mentally stable Space Marines make it into the Deathwatch.
So it's not just about being a skilled warrior.
No.
It's also about, like, temperament.
Yes.
Having the mental fortitude to, like, put the mission above
personal grudges.
Right, above personal grudges.
Chapter rivalries.
Chapter rivalries.
Yes.
Yeah.
And weeding out those who are likely to cause problems,
Right.
who might let their pride or their anger get in the way of the mission.
Yeah.
They're selecting for individuals who understand that teamwork is essential for survival.
Right, especially when you're facing down, hordes of bloodthirsty aliens.
Especially then.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. But even with the best selection process in the galaxy, you're still going to have some friction, right? I mean, you're putting guys who've been raised to be rivals to see each other as competition into close quarters.
Absolutely.
Right.
That's where strong leadership comes into play. The Watch captains, the Watch commanders, they have to be exceptional leaders.
Right, to kind of like smooth those things over.
Exactly. They need to command respect, to instill discipline, and to mediate conflicts before they escalate into something more serious.
And I'm guessing breaking up a fight between a Space Wolf and a Black Templar is not exactly a walk in the park.
You could say that again?
Yeah. So, I mean, it takes a special kind of leader to manage a group of warriors.
As diverse.
Yeah, as diverse and fiercely independent.
As fiercely independent.
As the Deathwatch.
Yes. It's about finding that balance between authority and respect.
Right.
Maintaining order and allowing for individual expression.
Right. Okay, so they're managing to keep things, relatively peaceful within the Watch fortresses. But what about when they're out on missions?
Oh, yes.
Like, those kill teams are often composed of members from different chapters, right?
Absolutely.
I imagine things could get pretty tense out in the field, far away from the watchful eyes of those Watch commanders.
It's the true test of their cohesion.
Yeah.
Out in the black void of space, facing down terrifying Xenos enemies with no backup in sight.
Right.
That's when those old rivalries can really surface.
Yeah, our source mentions that commanders keep a close eye on kill teams, especially those, with a history of conflict between their chapters.
Absolutely.
It's like they're walking a tightrope, right?
They are.
Trying to balance the need for, like, diversity with, like, the potential for disaster.
Yeah, exactly. They need to find that sweet spot, that optimal mix of skills and personalities that will allow a kill team to function effectively without devolving into chaos.
Yeah, you don't want a bunch of Space Marines.
No.
Like, going rogue.
It's a delicate balancing act.
You can imagine.
And one that requires careful planning, constant vigilance, and a deep understanding of Space Marine psychology.
It's funny. We often think of Space Marines as these, like, emotionless killing machines.
Right.
But this whole conversation really highlights the fact that they're still human. They still have emotions.
Absolutely.
They still have those primal instincts that can sometimes lead to conflict.
That's a really insightful observation.
Yeah.
The Deathwatch understands that their warriors are not robots.
Right.
They're flesh and blood. They have their own beliefs and values.
Right.
And they're capable of both great heroism and great savagery.
And it's that duality.
Yeah.
That, like, complex interplay of human nature.
Yes.
And, like, superhuman power that really makes the Deathwatch such a fascinating and compelling faction.
I couldn't agree more.
Now, our source also mentioned some specific challenges related to kind of the genetic makeup of certain chapters, specifically the Space Wolves.
The Space Wolves.
And the Blood Angels.
Ah, yes. Those two chapters have, let's call them quirks.
Quirks, right.
Quirks.
We're talking about the Space Wolves with their tendency towards wolfishness, shall we say.
Yes.
And the Blood Angels with their thirst for blood.
Exactly. These are genetic flaws, legacies of their primarchs that manifest in unpredictable, really, and sometimes dangerous ways.
So how does the Deathwatch deal with these quirks.
Very cautiously.
Very cautious.
They're extremely cautious when it comes to selecting Space Wolves and Blood Angels for the Deathwatch.
Right.
They need to be absolutely certain that those recruits have a firm grip on their primal urges.
Yeah.
That they can control their instincts and not succumb to the flaws that plague their chapters.
I imagine, like, a werewolf or a vampire running loose in a watch fortress would cause some problems.
To say the least.
Right. So they've got to make sure that doesn't happen.
They have stringent genetic screenings and psychological evaluations specifically designed to identify and mitigate those risks.
So they're not just looking for, like, physical strength and combat prowess. They're also looking for, like, mental resilience. Individuals who can resist those, like, genetic urges that could potentially,
turn them into a liability.
Turn them into a liability, yeah. Exactly.
It's about finding that balance, that sweet spot where a Space Marine's unique abilities can be harnessed for good without jeopardizing the mission or the safety of their brothers.
It's fascinating how, even within the Astartes, the pinnacle of human evolution, there are these inherent flaws, these like genetic quirks that can have such a profound impact on their behavior.
Right.
You really challenges that image of the emotionless, perfectly controlled Space Marine that we often see, depicted in the lore.
Absolutely. It adds a layer of complexity and humanity to these characters, reminding us that even in the 41st millennium, with all its advanced technology and superhuman warriors,
we're still human.
We're still bound by our biology, by our flaws.
And it's those flaws, I think, those imperfections that make the Deathwatch's story all the more compelling. They're not just fighting against the alien. They're also fighting against their own, inner demons.
Yes.
Against the very nature.
Against their nature.
Of their being.
A constant struggle.
A battle fought both on the battlefield and within the minds of these warriors.
Speaking of inner demons, I want to circle back to something we touched on earlier. The Black Shields.
The Black Shields.
We know that there are Space Marines who have renounced their past. But what exactly drives them to join the Deathwatch? The Black Shields are perhaps the most enigmatic and intriguing members of the Deathwatch.
I could see that.
Their motivations for joining are as varied as their backgrounds. Some seek atonement for past sins, for actions that have brought shame upon their chapters. They're looking for redemption, a chance to wash away the stain of their past deeds through acts of valor and self-sacrifice.
So it's like they're trying to earn back their honor. Right? Prove that they're still worthy of wearing the mantle of a Space Marine, even if they've, made mistakes in the past.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Others have been exiled, cast out from their chapters for reasons they may never fully understand. They've lost their homes, their brothers, their very identities. Deathwatch offers them a new purpose, a new family, a chance to rebuild their lives and find meaning in a galaxy that has seemingly rejected them.
It's like they're finding solace in the anonymity of the Deathwatch, a chance to start over, to shut their past and embrace a new destiny.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And then there are those whose pasts are so shrouded in secrecy, so traumatic that they simply want to forget who they were. They erase their symbols, their names, their very memories, and they dedicate themselves entirely to the Deathwatch, seeking oblivion in the heat of battle. In the endless fight against the alien.
It's a haunting thought.
It is.
Like the idea of these warriors carrying such heavy burdens, such dark secrets within their hearts. What kind of psychological toll does that take on them?
It's impossible to say for sure. The Deathwatch doesn't pry into the pasts of its Black Shields. They offer them a chance for a new beginning, a chance to prove themselves, to find redemption through service and sacrifice. But the ghosts of their pasts undoubtedly linger, haunting their thoughts, shaping their actions.
Now, our source mentions that leaving the Deathwatch is impossible for Black Shields.
Oh, yes. Why is that?
It's partly a matter of tradition, partly a matter of necessity. Black Shields have burned their bridges, so to speak. They've renounced their past, their chapters, their very identities. There's nowhere else for them to go.
They've given up everything to join the Deathwatch. So leaving is simply not an option.
Exactly. The Deathwatch becomes their new home, their new family. They find purpose and camaraderie amongst their brothers in arms, fighting side by side against the horrors of the galaxy.
But it's not an easy path, is it?
It's not. They're constantly being tested, pushed to their limits, their loyalty and their sanity constantly under scrutiny. So they have to, prove themselves over and over again.
Over and over again.
Yeah.
They have to earn the trust of their brothers to demonstrate that they are worthy of wearing the black armor of the Deathwatch.
No, some of them do, like, rise through the ranks.
Oh, yes, they do.
They become leaders.
They become chaplains, captains, even watch commanders.
Wow.
They're living proof that redemption is possible.
Right.
That even the most broken warrior can find a path to greatness within the Deathwatch.
That's awesome.
It is, isn't it?
It's a powerful story, one of, like, second chances.
Yes.
And the enduring strength of, like, the human spirit.
It's a testament to the Deathwatch's pragmatic nature, their willingness to see the potential in every Space Marine, regardless of their past.
We've talked a lot about the Watch Fortresses, these, like, massive, heavily fortified bases that serve as kind of the Deathwatch's headquarters.
Right.
But what about those, like, smaller outposts?
Yes.
The watch stations scattered throughout with the Jericho Reach. What role do they play in, like, the Deathwatch's overall strategy?
The watch stations are essentially the eyes and ears of the Deathwatch, constantly vigilant, always on the lookout for signs of Xenos activity.
So they're like listening posts, gathering intelligence, monitoring enemy movements.
Yeah, exactly.
Relaying that information back to the watch fortresses.
Precisely. Strategically located on worlds and moons, even in the void of space itself.
Wow.
Providing the Deathwatch with a comprehensive view of the Xenos threat.
Now, the source mentions that they're often unmanned or have, like, minimal staffing. That seems risky.
It is risky.
Right.
But they're equipped with self-destruct mechanisms.
Okay.
So the Deathwatch can't risk their technology, their data, falling into enemy hands. It's better to scorch the Earth than to let it be used against them.
That's a chilling thought.
It is.
But it really underscores, like, the dangerous and precarious nature of their work.
Every mission, every deployment carries a significant risk.
Right.
But the Deathwatch understands that those risks are necessary to protect the Imperium, to safeguard humanity from the horrors that lurk beyond the stars.
Now, the source mentions a few interesting watch stations. Aris, Midi, Faders, Earther.
Oh, yes.
Each one with its own unique characteristics and purpose. What can you tell us about these?
Well, Aris, for example, is a rotating station in the outer limits of the Arcus system.
Okay.
It's home to a powerful astropath who relays communications across vast interstellar distances.
So it's like a vital link.
Vital link.
In the Deathwatch's, like, network.
Exactly.
Making sure that information is flowing freely between those watch stations and those watch fortresses. And what about Midi?
Midi.
That one sounds intriguing.
Oh, Midi is located on a desolate, lifeless world near the chaos-held Carrion worlds.
Spooky.
Its purpose shrouded in secrecy.
Oh, even better.
Rumors abound about what goes on at Midi.
Give me some rumors.
Some suggesting that it's used for research into forbidden technologies.
Okay.
Or for interrogating captured Xenos prisoners?
Oh, that's even worse.
It's one of the more mysterious watch stations.
I could see that.
Yeah.
So, kind of like a secret black site where the Deathwatch is, like, you know, doing its most sensitive operations. Okay, I like it. What about Faders?
Oh, Faders.
Our source mentions that it's an architect's ship, possibly containing, like, traces of artificial intelligence.
Yes.
Which is, you know, pretty alarming.
It is.
Considered the Imperium's strict prohibition against AI.
Right.
Yeah.
Artificial intelligence is considered anathema to the Imperium.
Right.
A dangerous and unpredictable force that could potentially lead to chaos and destruction.
So what's the Deathwatch doing with an AI-infused ship?
It's hard to say for sure.
Okay.
Some speculate that they're studying it,
Okay.
trying to understand its capabilities and potential weaknesses.
Right.
Others believe they're using it for specific missions, perhaps in situations where its unique abilities would be advantageous.
It's a risky game they're playing.
It is.
Dabbling in, like, forbidden technologies is always a dangerous proposition, even for the Deathwatch.
Even for them.
Right.
True. But they're willing to take risks, to push the boundaries, if it means gaining an advantage over their enemies.
Okay, I like it. What about Earther?
Earther.
That one sounds, I don't know, a bit more grounded.
Yeah, a little bit more down to earth, so to speak.
Yeah, compared to some of these others.
Yeah, Earther's located on a semi-arid world.
Okay.
That the Tau Empire has been trying to colonize.
Right.
And the Deathwatch presence there has effectively thwarted those efforts.
So they're denying them access to, like, valuable resources and territory.
Exactly.
It's a reminder that, like, the Deathwatch isn't just about, like, hunting down Xenos threats. They're also about defending, like, the Imperium's borders, holding the line against those who would seek to,
encroach upon its territory.
Yeah, encroach upon its territory.
Precisely. They're a multifaceted force,
Mm-hmm.
capable of both offensive and defensive operations.
I like it.
The guardians on the walls, the shield against the darkness.
Always vigilant.
Always ready to strike.
Now, our source also mentions a few other watch stations. CX 3119 Belarius.
Yes.
And, like, a station located within the Hadex anomaly.
Ah, the Hedex anomaly.
What can you tell us about these?
Well, CX 3119 is an intriguing case.
Okay.
Initially, it was a mobile station designed to monitor the Hadex anomaly.
Right?
A warp storm of immense power and unpredictability.
I bet.
And it was eventually swallowed by the anomaly, vanishing without a trace.
Oh, no.
Years later, it reappeared, seemingly unharmed.
Okay.
But its purpose and current state remain a mystery.
So a ghost ship from the warp.
Pretty much.
Okay, that's creepy.
It raises a lot of questions about what happened to the station and its crew during their time within the anomaly.
I bet. What about Belarius? What's the story there?
Belarius was a watch station, carved into a massive asteroid, a solitary outpost on the fringes of the Jericho Reach. It was once a coveted posting, a place for reflection and solitude.
Wow.
But it was lost when the Hadex anomaly erupted,
Oh.
engulfing the asteroid in warp energy and leaving behind a desolate, twisted ruin.
That's a grim feat.
It is.
A reminder of, like, the destructive power of the warp.
Yes.
And, like, the dangers that the Deathwatch constantly faces.
Mm-hmm.
What about that station located within the Hadex anomaly? That one sounds pretty audacious.
It does, doesn't it?
Like, what were they thinking? Building a station inside a warp storm?
It was a risky endeavor, but the Deathwatch was determined to study the anomaly up close.
Okay.
To understand its nature and perhaps find a way to harness its power.
Right, right.
So they constructed a station right at the heart of the storm.
Wow.
A testament to their boldness and their unwavering commitment to understanding the Xenos threat.
I mean, it sounds like they're walking a tightrope between brilliance and madness.
Perhaps, but that's the Deathwatch for you. They're not afraid to push the boundaries.
Yeah.
To take risks, to do what others deem impossible.
It's that unwavering determination, that willingness to face any challenge that makes them like such an inspiring force in the grim darkness of the 41st millennium.
They are the embodiment of the Imperium's indomitable spirit, a shining beacon of hope in a galaxy consumed by war and darkness.
Okay, we've talked a lot about the watch stations.
Yes.
These, like, remote outposts on the front lines of the war against Xenos.
Mm-hmm.
But now let's shift gears and talk about something a little bit more explosive. The Deathwatch arsenal.
Ah, yes, the tools of the trade, the instruments of Xenos destruction.
Now, our source really emphasizes the specialization, the customization that goes into their weaponry.
Right.
It's not just about, like, brute force. It's about understanding the enemy and tailoring your weapons to exploit their weaknesses.
Precisely.
Yeah.
A bolt for every occasion.
I love it.
Every enemy type. Dragonfire rounds for incendiary effects. Kraken rounds for piercing armor.
Right.
Hellfire rounds packed with biotoxins to melt Tyranids from the inside out.
So it's like they have a whole catalog of specialized ammunition, each one designed to, like, deliver maximum damage to a specific Xenos target.
Exactly. They're not just firing blindly. They're experts in Xenos anatomy, in their weaknesses.
Wow.
Their tactics.
Okay.
They're making every shot count.
That brings us to kind of like the Deathwatch's, I guess, most iconic weapon, the bolter.
Ah, the bolter, the quintessential space marine weapon.
Quintessential, yeah.
A weapon that embodies the Imperium's philosophy of overwhelming firepower and brutal efficiency.
But the Deathwatch doesn't just use, like, any bolter.
No, they take the bolter concept and elevate it to an art form.
Okay.
Master-crafted bolters, ancient relics passed down through generations.
Wow.
Each one a testament to the Imperium's enduring legacy.
So they're not just, like, grabbing these off the shelf.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
These are unique, special weapons.
I love it.
And they're constantly modifying them.
Right.
Adapting them.
To the ever-evolving Xenos.
To the ever-evolving Xenos threat.
They're working with the Adeptus Mechanicus, pushing the boundaries of what's possible, incorporating new technologies, new materials, new ammunition types.
Always seeking that edge, that advantage that will allow them to prevail against the horrors of the galaxy.
Now, the source mentions a few specific bolter patterns.
Yes.
The Artemis pattern.
The Artemis.
And the Hesh pattern.
The Hesh.
What makes these patterns so special?
Well, both the Artemis and the Hesh patterns are highly prized by the Deathwatch.
Okay.
For their reliability, accuracy, and adaptability.
Yeah.
They can be fitted with a variety of modifications.
Oh, cool.
From scopes and targeting systems to specialized ammunition feeders, allowing the Deathwatch to tailor their bolters to specific mission parameters.
So they can really, like, fine-tune these things.
They can.
Yeah. And the ammunition.
Yes.
I mean, we already talked about the specialized rounds, but are there any other, like, unique aspects to the Deathwatch's bolter ammunition?
The Deathwatch places a high value on craftsmanship, quality. Every bolt is meticulously crafted, inspected, and even blessed by a tech priest before it's deemed worthy of being fired by a Deathwatch Space Marine.
It's almost like they're treating, like, each bolt as a sacred object.
In a way they are.
A symbol of their faith and their dedication to the Imperium.
They understand that every shot fired, every Xenos slain, is a victory for humanity.
Right.
A step closer to ensuring the Imperium's survival.
Okay, we've covered the bolter, the kind of, iconic weapon of the Deathwatch.
Yes.
But what about other weapons in their arsenal? What else do they use to, like, bring the pain to the Xenos?
Well, the Deathwatch believes in having the right tool for the job.
Right.
So their armory is filled with a diverse array of weapons, each one designed to exploit a specific Xenos weakness.
Right.
Or to counter a particular threat.
So they've got everything.
They've got shotguns, frag cannons,
power swords, chain swords,
sour swords, chain swords,
flamethrowers, melta guns.
Oh, yes, they've got it all.
Now, the source specifically mentions shotguns. And not like your average run-of-the-mill scattergun.
No.
These are heavy-duty.
Heavy-duty.
Xeno-shredding shotguns.
Yes, they have shotguns with specialized ammunition, from armor-piercing slugs to shells filled with bioacids that can dissolve a Tyramid in seconds.
Oh, that's awesome.
It is, isn't it?
And let's not forget about the frag cannons.
The frag cannons.
Right?
Ooh.
Those, like, miniature artillery pieces.
Yes.
That can turn a group of orcs into a fine red mist.
Very satisfying to use.
I imagine, the Deathwatch has, like, both vehicle-mounted and handheld versions.
Right? They do.
Each one capable of, like, delivering a devastating blast of shrapnel.
Exactly.
And for those, like, close-quarters encounters, where you need to get up close and personal with the enemy,
right,
there are, of course, the power swords, chain swords, and, wait for it, phase blades.
Yes. The phase blade, a weapon borrowed from the Necrons.
Borrowed, right. Not exactly given.
Given, no.
Yeah, more like taken.
Taken. A testament to the Deathwatch's willingness to adapt and utilize even their enemies' technology.
So, I mean, it's a blade that, like, shimmers in and out of reality, able to bypass even the toughest armor. It must be terrifying to face that in battle.
Just imagine a blade that can suddenly vanish.
Right.
Only to reappear inside your chest cavity. It's as much a psychological weapon as a physical one.
Absolutely. And they have flamethrowers, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because what's a good, like, Xenos hunting arsenal without a way to, like, purge heretics with holy fire?
You gotta have a flamethrower.
Right.
They utilize a variety of flamethrowers, from the standard backpack-mounted versions to heavier vehicle-mounted incinerators.
Oh, wow.
That can engulf entire squads in a torrent of promethium.
Now, the source mentions a particularly potent flamethrower called the Balefire gun.
Oh, yes, the Balefire gun.
What makes this one so special?
It utilizes highly purified promethium, resulting in a flame that burns hotter and longer than standard promethium.
So it's like extra crispy.
Extra crispy, particularly effective against Xenos that have regenerative abilities or those that are particularly resistant to fire.
So it's the go-to weapon for dealing with, like, those pesky Pyranids.
Pyranids, yes.
Or those annoyingly tough Chaos Space Marines.
Chaos Space Marines.
We just got done talking about all those sacrifices the Deathwatch has to make, sometimes destroying their own tech to keep it out of the wrong hands. It really shows you how seriously they take their mission.
It does. Imagine they're entrusted with some of the Imperium's most advanced and dangerous tech.
Right.
They can't afford to be careless, not when the fate of humanity hangs in the balance.
It really makes you wonder what would happen if some of that tech did fall into the wrong hands.
Let's just say it wouldn't be pretty.
Right.
The Deathwatch understands that knowledge is power, and in the wrong hands, their weapons and technology could be devastating.
Absolutely.
So they go to such extreme length to protect their secrets.
So we've talked a lot about the Deathwatch as a whole, as this force made up of Space Marines from all these different chapters.
Right.
But what really sets them apart from those chapters? What makes the Deathwatch truly unique?
It goes beyond just their specialized training
Right.
or their focus on Xenos.
Yeah.
It's their very structure, their organization, that sets them apart.
You're talking about the kill teams, right?
The kill teams, exactly.
Yeah.
Unlike a typical Space Marine chapter, which might organize into squads and companies based on, battlefield roles,
Right.
the Deathwatch prioritizes flexibility and adaptability.
So instead of like a fixed assault squad or a devastator squad,
Right.
they create kill teams that are tailored to that specific mission,
Yes.
drawing on the diverse skills and experience of their members.
Precisely.
So it's like, imagine a kill team composed of a space wolf,
Oh, yeah.
known for his tracking and close combat skills. An ultramarine with like a really sharp tactical mind and a mastery of ranged combat.
Right.
And then like a tech marine from the Iron Hands with an intimate knowledge of Xenos tech.
Oh, that's a good one.
Right? That's a combination no single chapter could replicate.
It's like taking the best aspects of each chapter and blending them together to create something truly formidable.
Almost like they're custom building these teams for maximum effectiveness.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
They're taking advantage of the unique strengths of each chapter.
Right.
Creating these synergistic units that can adapt to any situation and overcome any challenge.
Our source mentions several specialized kill teams.
Oh, yes.
With their own area of expertise.
Right.
You got the Aquila kill team.
The Aquila.
They're like adaptable all-rounders, often sent in as scouts.
Yeah, or for initial engagements.
Right. First contact.
First contact, yeah. Then there's the Dominatus kill team.
The Dominatus, they're like elite specialists. They're tasked with taking down high-value targets. So if you need to eliminate, like, an orc war boss.
Oh, yeah.
Or a Tyranid hive tyrant. That's where the Dominatus team comes in.
The scalpel, the precision instrument of the Deathwatch.
I love it. And when you're facing, like, a horde of enemies, a swarm of Tyranids, or a WAAA Han,
oh, yeah,
they're going to send in the Fuhrer kill team.
The Fuhrer.
Those are the heavy hitters, the ones who specialize in just dealing with
overwhelming numbers.
Overwhelming numbers, exactly. And then you've got the Malloyus kill team, right?
Malloy.
The tank busters equipped to take down, like, heavily armored vehicles.
Monstrous creatures.
Monstrous creatures, yeah. So, like, they're the ones you call in when you need to, like, really level the playing field.
Exactly.
Bring down those targets that would otherwise be, like, nearly unstoppable.
The big guns.
The big guns. Our source also mentions the Paradis kill team.
The Paradis.
The masters of stealth and infiltration.
Oh, the sneaky ones.
Right, the sneaky ones. They operate in the shadows, striking from the darkness, eliminating key targets before the enemy even knows what hit them.
The assassins.
The assassins.
Yeah.
And then if you need, like, speed and maneuverability, they'll call in the Venator kill team.
The Venator.
Those are the bikers.
The bikers.
The hit-and-run specialists, harassing the enemy, disrupting their formations, just sowing chaos wherever they go.
The disruptors.
The disruptors. It's incredible how the Deathwatch has created such a diverse array of specialized kill teams, each one like perfectly suited to a particular role on the battlefield.
It's a testament to their flexibility, their willingness to break from tradition, to embrace new ways of fighting.
Like they understand that to defeat the Xenos threat, they need to be adaptable, innovative, always a step ahead of the enemy.
You can't get complacent.
And with the galaxy plunging deeper into chaos, with the Great Rift, the Deathwatch hasn't slowed down at all.
No.
They've actually continued to evolve, creating new kill teams to meet the challenges of the era Indominus.
Absolutely.
So you got, for example, like the Proteus kill team.
The Proteus kill team, yes.
Made up of veterans from like the first company's various chapters.
The best of the best.
So they bring a wealth of experience and expertise.
They do.
Right?
Years of knowledge.
And you got the Fortis kill team.
The Forks.
Composed of those new Primaris Space Marines.
Ah, the Primaris.
Right, the cutting edge of the Deathwatch, incorporating all the latest gene tech weaponry.
Right, the latest and greatest.
Right,
yeah.
Like blending the old guard with the new.
Blending the old with the new.
Yeah, treating this dynamic and like almost unstoppable force.
It's a powerful combination.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you've got the Spectrus kill team.
The
specialists in like covert operations, infiltration, sabotage. They're like the ghosts.
Yes.
The whispers in the dark.
Operating behind enemy lines.
Right.
Sowing chaos and confusion.
So it's clear the Deathwatch isn't resting on its laurels. They're constantly innovating, seeking new ways to combat the alien menace.
They have to.
They have to.
The Xenos threat is constantly evolving, growing stronger and more insidious.
Yeah.
The Deathwatch understands that to survive, to protect humanity,
they need to be.
They need to be just as relentless,
yeah,
just as adaptable, just as determined as the enemies they face.
Absolutely. Well, I think we've covered just about everything there is to know about the Deathwatch.
I think so.
From their origins, structure, weapons, tactics, and of course their unwavering dedication to the Imperium.
Absolutely.
It's been an incredible journey, hasn't it?
It has. They are a truly fascinating faction.
Yeah.
A testament to the resilience and the adaptability of the human spirit.
They are the guardians on the walls, the shield against the darkness, the silent protectors who stand between humanity.
And the horrors that lurk beyond the stars.
As the galaxy descends further into chaos and war, their role is only going to become more crucial.
More crucial than ever.
We hope you've enjoyed this deep dive into the world of the Deathwatch.
Until next time.
Keep exploring the vast and fascinating universe of Warhammer 40K.